or family, or friends. But something that keeps me empowered throughout these trying times is how I ignited my own faith. I grew up in Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey, a predominantly white town. I never thought that being Asian American would have difficulties. However, I remember moments when it brought a lot of anxieties for me. I am a Filipino Chinese American, and prior to college, I mainly identified as Filipino. Although I had Filipino friends, there was not a lot of Asian representation at my school. I didn't notice this at the time, but looking back, birthday parties were the time where the Asian American experience brought some anxieties to me. I would invite both groups of friends to my party, and throughout the party, I would be more stressed than enjoying myself. Why was I stressed celebrating my birthday? I learned that with each friend group, I had two different personalities, or identities. I was stressed going from one group to another and changing how I act and talk with each of them. I would get confused in the conversation and mix them up. My birthday, something that was meant to be fun for me and others, turned out to be exhausting for me trying to balance my Filipino identity and my American identity. Being balanced between being Filipino American became really prevalent from my senior year of high school to my sophomore year of college. I did not know much of my Filipino culture. I can somewhat understand the Saya. I've been to Santa Cruz a few times. I've been to Tagalog masses. I was at elders doing the Mamapol, and on Christmas I do Manito Manito with my family. Those are the few things that I know about my Filipino culture. I went to the Philippines when I was really young, so I do not remember much of it. My Asian American identity, my Filipino Chinese identity, was not as present in my life than my American identity. This imbalance in who I wanted to be brought so much confusion and anxieties for a couple of years, but luckily I managed to find myself. I mentioned earlier that the theme for APH Month is Ignite Your Flame. When I came up with the weekly themes behind it, I thought of the steps to build fire: creation, gathering, building, and igniting. Here's how I started to ignite my own flame. Creation. 2 years ago, I was a freshman who was told to join UASO and UFASA. I went to a few general body meetings, met a lot of friends, and went to some events. I slowly became more involved in organizations, and through the meetings and events, I started to understand the Asian American identity. Gathering. With everything I learned from events and meetings, I started to look more into the Asian American culture. I looked more into the Filipino culture, customs, and traditions, and took time to learn about the Chinese culture as well. Through gathering more information and immersing myself into my own culture, I started to realize how beautiful and fascinating the Asian culture really is. I want to explore more about where my roots came from. Building. This step was probably the most difficult for me. This is where I started to embrace being Asian American. This is where I had to learn how to balance my Filipino, Chinese, and American identities. When I got to this stage, I started to participate more in UASO and UFASA, and I would take what I learned outside the organization and started implementing it into my life. I started to feel more comfortable with my Asian identity. The discomfort of this stage started when I was home for the summer. I would be with my friends who were white, and I would feel really out of place. I thought that my Asian identity overpowered my American identity. At this point, I took a lot of time to reflect into who I wanted to be, how I wanted to present myself to others. To me, I was battling myself. It drained me mentally and emotionally, trying to find a person who was comfortable and proud. And I'll be honest, I did lose a lot of friends at this stage because I would hear things that I changed too much, or you're not the same person I met, and this is not who you really are. I started to battle insecurities, and there were so many voices in my head that made me feel conflicted with who I should be. But I learned that the people who said those things to me were hindering me from my potential and who I was meant to be. Finally, at the last stage, ignite. This is where I truly began embracing my Asian American identity. Igniting my flame came last year. I finally found a person who was comfortable in her skin. Not only did I show how proud I was to be Asian American when I was at MSU, but I kept showing my pride when I was at home. I talked about my experiences and what I learned to my friends and my family. Both of those who are Asian and those who are not. I began to act unapologetically Asian. to get to where you are now, I am proud of you. You are glowing and transformed. I always look back on that moment to empower myself, especially now in my current situation. I hope that throughout APAH month, you can find something to make you feel empowered, that you can ignite your own flame. Now is the time that we, the Asian Pacific American community, need to stand together as one. Be proud of who you are, where you come from, what you look like. Be unapologetically Asian and keep your flame ignited.
Amen.